Welcome to St James's Street in Taunton, the home and heart of Somerset County Cricket Club. This great club has been a part of the cricketing landscape for the past 147 years since its inception in 1875. We're on the threshold of another first-class season here, as players, spectators, members and all those involved in the game are readying themselves for the battles to come. There is so much currently going on in the cricketing landscape that needs to be discussed, evaluated and embraced by all who love this great game. But today we start where we're meant to start. We start by reflecting on the life of the greatest bowler ever to have been born. Earlier today, his memorial service, the service to Shane Warne, was made available for the world to partake and to celebrate the life and achievements of this unique individual. The service in question was powerful and emotive, and it celebrated and sought to exhort a man who was larger than life and possibly even conceivably greater than the game itself. Shane Warne was a man of insuperable talent and ability, and whilst he loved life in all its facets and aspects, he never forgot his humble roots. He never forgot that he was in essence a man of the people, a man whose passion and compassion were next to none, a man who always had time for others, but whose principal activity was to devour batsmen for breakfast. He was a man whose mystique and delivery and his style of delivery as a leg break bowler was unique in terms of depth, breadth and expertise. His contribution to humanity will live for generations to come. He wore the mantle of greatness with humility, but he was a man who had a vision and who never gave up on what he desired to do most, which was to bowl for his country. Yes, he enjoyed a life of fun and frivolity off the field, but his passion on the field and his compassion off the field were next to none. He is foremost in our thoughts today, as many reflect on his untimely death at the age of 52, and for many, this is still a shock that is so hard to embrace. In fact, having met Shane Warne myself, I and many others, I'm sure, are half inclined to imagine that perhaps his premature passing was merely a ruse, and he'll come out from behind the rafters and say very shortly, "Well, that was a good game, that was a good lark, I'm fine really, I was just having you guys on." But we salute Shane Warne, a master, a unique master of his craft, and there can never and will never be another like him as long as this game is played. Having reflected on the greatness and uniqueness of Shane Warne, let us now turn our attention to English cricket. The question has to be asked quite simply: what is wrong with English cricket? Where has everything gone wrong? England have just completed their tour of the West Indies, having lost by 10 wickets at Grenada to a relatively weak West Indian team. But the rot had set in long before the Caribbean tour, indeed long before the 4-0 defeat in the Ashes had transpired. There has been evidence for many years that the quality and standard of first-class cricket in this country continues to diminish and is no longer, and in fact is a pale shadow of what it once was. There are factors that have seriously contributed to the demise of the quality of first-class cricket in this country. Evidence of our batting lineup overseas has made it abundantly clear that players are no longer mentally equipped to bat for lengthy periods of time. they're not prepared to occupy the crease, they're not prepared to play balls on their merits, and they're not prepared to respect the bowlers sufficiently with a die-hard attitude over my dead body approach. Occupation of the crease is essential for run scoring and total gathering. This is something that's no longer possible in the current climate of English cricket. The reason for this? The advent of the one-day game, the fast food microwave thrashathon cricket, which now dominates with the advent of 2020, and worse still, the 100 competition, which has ensured that batsmen bat for such short periods of time. They go out from the word go to try and belt every delivery that comes their way. There are huge technical deficiencies which sadly many coaches are largely responsible for. No longer are batsmen coached to play balls on their merits, to play the ball under their eyes, to get into line. No longer are batsmen permitted or in any way encouraged to leave the deliveries alone that clearly they need not play at. They enter the wicket with a view to ensuring that they try to score off every ball. But once you're back in that pavilion, once you're in the hutch, there's no coming back. You have to sell your wicket dearly. It doesn't matter whether occupation of the crease becomes such an obsession that the gathering of runs, while slow to start with, will increase the longer the batsman occupies the crease. Also, the technical abilities of batsmen to play are clearly deficient. Fetching and reaching for balls, playing across the line of straight deliveries, not moving their feet to the pitch of the ball, not watching the ball under their eyes. We've seen a cataclysm of England wickets falling so regularly during the course of the last few years. How often has Joe Root come in at 3 or 4 with only 2 or 3 overs of the innings having been bowled? He might in effect have been an opening batsman, given how infrequently our opening batsmen have occupied the crease successfully. Sadly, this is equally true at county level. If players are not coached to bat for lengthy periods of time and to respect the bowlers arrayed against them, then that contagion will spread to Test match cricket, to those who are deemed, unworthily perhaps, to be called Test cricketers. Ironically, the same is equally true of bowling. We've seen bowlers who pitch wildly inaccurate deliveries wide of off stump. Bowlers who are not prepared to play for time. Everything is geared to the one-day game, which essentially means ensuring that runs aren't scored quickly, or in the case of the batsman, runs are scored exceedingly quickly. Techniques are simply not palpably obvious, those that are required at the level of first class and Test cricket. Other nations have left England far behind, and yet ironically still continue to play one-day cricket, as much if not more so than we. The coaches do take enormous responsibility, but there are so many issues pertaining to first class cricket which need to be addressed as a matter of the utmost urgency. The ultimate responsibility for the demise of Test match cricket, and indeed first class cricket in this country, has to rest with the ECB. The England and Wales Cricket Board are responsible for every aspect of recreational cricket right the way through to international cricket played in this country. The question now becomes, quite simply, is the making of money, is the chink, chink, chink of the cash register now so paramount that the quality of cricket in this country is a pale shadow of what it once was, which it is. No one would deny that. Coaches have to stop hiding behind cliches and pretending that all is well, when those who know and love the game as greatly as they know perfectly well that English cricket has never been in a more dire state. The ECB has to take full responsibility for the acquisition of fast cash and fast money, selling the soul of cricket down the river, and in so doing ensuring that our professional players are no longer, like the ECB itself, fit for purpose, where first class and Test cricket are concerned. Yes, we can blame Joe Root's timorous captaincy qualities and his timorous captaincy strategies and tactics. He is not a natural leader, he never was. It is a flawed policy to employ one's best batsman as captain, because there's no guarantees that that is going to be a success in any way, shape or form. He has been found wanting with regard to bowling changes, fielding places, and all sorts of issues pertaining to batting changes and lineups. Even in the selection of the side, the omission of James Anderson and Stuart Broad from the West Indies was known to everybody to be a fallacious policy. We knew that before the team was even selected. And we brought to the West Indies a raw, inexperienced, injury-prone, inadequate attack that was found wanting even against a side as poor as the West Indies are at this point in time. Ultimately, though, the Boris Johnson of the piece, or dare I say it, the Vladimir Putin of cricket, is Tom Harrison of the ECB. As chief executive, he's had years now to be able to work on ensuring there are funds available and infrastructure is appropriately allocated for the training and coaching of first-class cricketers. This means ensuring that spin bowlers can bowl on hard, dry wickets at midsummer so that they're not left with no overs under their belts in conditions that are foreign to them, namely seaming conditions, the likes of which we see for much of the summer in any event. The middle part of summer should be reserved and allocated for spin bowlers to be encouraged to practice their art against first-class players and ultimately international players alike. Tom Harrison has been a disaster as chief executive of the ECB. He's sacked 68 members of his own staff only to give himself an effective pay rise of £1.5 million. Cricket, I'm afraid, has been made to be more maladjusted in the light of international requirements than at any stage in the 145 years of Test cricket history. The buck stops with the man at the top, and the ECB, in the eyes of many, is no longer fit for purpose and needs to be replaced by an institution that has the integrity of the game at its very heart to be its raison d'etre. Until or unless that is recognised by those on high, we will simply lurch from one disaster of first-class failure to continued failure at Test match level, to the extent that even the lowest nations on the ladder of Test cricket, the Afghanistans, Irelands and Zimbabwe's, are now stronger than English cricket. And yet we are the ones who pioneered Test match cricket. But until there is change at the top, we will never see first-class cricket and Test cricket of the quality that was once the case. Yes, we do require 3 or 4 day first-class cricket, although sadly, given the extent to which most county matches are over in 2 days, as a result of the deficiencies I've already outlined, we can see little hope of any change until policies are made to ensure that first-class cricket and Test cricket is safeguarded. And to that end, I would suggest we need to tap in and exploit the values and virtues of the insight and the foresight of those who know what they're talking about in terms of cricket as distinct from business. We need to bring in the likes of Mike Brearley, Jeff Boycott, David Gower, Alistair Cook. Their wisdom, experience and advice at every level is what is required now to rebuild the first-class game from scratch. And let's face it, which is more exciting? A game of cricket that lasts 80 minutes, little longer than a rugby match, and which is over as a result of a slogathon, or a slow-burning first-class game when on the final session of a 4-day county game a team requires 5 wickets or another team requires 87 ones to win. Recent history has taught us, when we saw Ben Stokes and Jack Leach batting at Headingley in 2019, desperate to survive against the Australians in the hope that we could at least claw back a draw in the series, and yet Stokes' magical powers caused us to win that Test match against all the odds. Similarly, we saw Angus Fraser battling madly to survive against Alan Donald in a test at Old Trafford against South Africa in 1998, when the nation was biting its fingernails as a result of knowing that at any point, in the event of Fraser's dismissal, we would lose the game. And let's not also forget 2009, when Jimmy Anderson and Monty Panesar hung on for the unlikeliest of draws when defeat was only moments away. We could go back to 1981 and reflect on Ian Botham's heroics at Headingley and Edgbaston and Old Trafford. And there is no way that any marketing officer or businessman can possibly suggest that even the most thrilling, supposedly, 2020 game can equate to matches of this ilk. So now is the time for us to rethink first-class cricket. We need a new chief executive, we need a new panel, we need those who are cricketers. Yes, we need to have business as a key facet of the modern game. Without money, cricket cannot survive. But if the integrity of the game is compromised, and those in charge care not for the game itself, then cricket itself in this nation will ultimately diminish to the extent that it becomes little more than a minority sport. Now to Somerset County Cricket Club, for many of us the very heart of our cricketing existence. This wonderful club here at St James's Street in Taunton has been the fulcrum of cricket throughout the southwest of England since its inception in 1875. During those 147 years, we have seen Somerset produce some outstanding cricketers of international repute and beyond that which many players cannot exceed. In that time we've seen triumphs at the John Player League, the Benson and Hedges Cup and the Gillette Cup. We've seen players regularly picked for England in a variety of disciplines in terms of one-day matches and test matches. Some of the greatest players of all time who've adorned this great ground include Brian Close, for example, who captained England, the great Sir Ian Botham, the great Viv Richards and Joel Garner. So many cricketers from this great club have moved on to the highest levels of the game. And even today we've seen players of the ilk of Craig Overton and Jack Leach, Dom Bess, now of Yorkshire of course, who've also played test match cricket for England. But the excitement that always precedes the start of any new season tantalisingly causes all of us to ask one overriding question. Is this the year, after 146 attempts, when for the first time Somerset can win the coveted county championship, which is the pinnacle of domestic cricket in this country, always has been, and we pray always will be? Everyone starts with a clean sweep, a clean sheet, a fresh start and a new broom. This club in the last 10 years has unquestionably provided proof of the pudding in that we are the finest all-round professional cricket team in this nation. But that elusive county championship is still the ultimate accolade, and many would argue that providing Somerset win the championship, we would happily cast all else to the dogs by comparison. It is what every professional cricket lives for. Every player lives for the county championship and for taking that pennant and that trophy accordingly. This could be the year with a fine batting lineup of young players, including 27-year-old Tom Abel, the captain, who perhaps is on the brink of making his international debut in Test cricket. Who knows? We have Tom Lammonby. We have the likes of Tom Banton, George Bartlett, and the old stager James Hildreth. The bowling attack is clearly very well led by Josh Davey, Lewis Gregory, to name but a few, with Craig Overton coming back almost certainly. Jack Leach available as and when he's not playing test match cricket, which leads to the overriding question. Would we rather have top quality players being picked for England or having them made available to play for Somerset? England have won the Ashes many times, although it seems unlikely at the moment they'll ever do so again. But the county championship is something that we have never had within our grasp. So surely it's better for Somerset to ensure these top class players are available for Somerset and are not poached for a declining and decaying test match England setup. As stated previously, until there is change from the top at ECB level and first class cricket is given the prominence it deserves, then not only will Test cricket suffer, but the quality and depth of our first class county championship cricketers will also suffer. So perhaps 2022 is the annus mirabilis, as everybody starts afresh with that passion, that excitement, that fervour, that anticipation, that hope. Let's lay to rest the ghosts of the past, the fact that in the last 7 or 8 years Somerset 3 times have become so close to winning the county championship. Let us make that our priority. Let us ensure that those who are not picked in England's first test match team of the summer against New Zealand and against India this year are available to play county championship cricket, because for Somerset supporters that is all that matters. So here's to it. 15 days from now, the first home game against Essex will take place here in conditions we hope will befit all those who are committed to county championship cricket. We want a nice, gloriously golden early spring stroke summer day where once again people can mingle together and we can score runs and take wickets. It all starts here at St James's Street in Taunton, 15 days from now.